Hello! This is habit 1, which is be proactive. The objective of habit 1 is to take responsibility for your choices regardless of circumstance. And the principles that habit 1 is based on are responsibility, choice, accountability, initiative, and resourcefulness. Alright, so Sierra is going to start, or already did, carry your own weather. And now I'm going to move into the circle of influence. So the circle of influence is essentially it means that you can control certain things, which would be in your circle of influence, and then your the circle of concern would be the things that you can't control. So little circle of influence, and then the outer stuff is the circle of concern. So if we're focusing on things we can't control, then our circle of influence is going to get smaller, which will lead to anxiety, less effective choices, all that kind of stuff. So we want to try to make our circle of influence bigger, and the way we can do that is by using proactive language and being proactive. So an example of this could be an example of this could be taking our past negative experiences and letting us filter that through ourselves and making future positive patterns. So instead of taking the things that have happened to us in the past, we can filter that through ourselves and become proactive, and in the future have positive interactions and experiences. And that's called being a transition person. So the transition would just be being negative in the past, and then being positive in the future. So one of the biggest ways to prevent yourself from becoming a transition person is to use reactive language. Because when you're using reactive language, which Sierra probably talked about a little bit in the Carry Your Own Weather, you're kind of you're not taking a moment to think about things, and that's decreasing the things you can control. So if you can control your language and the way that you're responding to things, you can increase your circle of influence. So the goal, this would be hang on. So this would be a small circle of influence and a big circle of concern. So this is going to be a reactive person. They're probably, there's going to be a lot of things, but they're probably going to be clinging on to negative past experiences, not carrying their own weather, things like that, to where it's just going to be a negative person all around. So what we want instead is to control our behaviors and actions and, language and all that kind of stuff, and create a bigger circle of influence and a smaller circle of concern. So pretty much just what I take from this, the circle of influence lesson, is that I have more control over things than I think. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have full control. For example, you can't have control over what other people think. However, you can control how you react to them saying what they think, essentially. So pretty much I'm just trying to say that you have a lot more control over things than you think you do, and you should be utilizing that control in a positive way. So last thing, I'm just gonna give an example of how I am proactive. So I have so when someone calls me out on something, then I'm very quick to be upset, and it's not that I'm necessarily aggressive, but I tend to kind of insult the person and just use unhealthy ways of communication, essentially. So what I've been trying to do throughout winter break is pretty much when I started learning about the habits in depth. I've been trying to, when someone is talking to me, I've been trying to use reactive language and not combat them. So I'm trying to like listen to what they say, and although that could be like seek first to understand then to be understood, I think it also fits into being proactive, because when I'm proactive with my language, so when I'm listening first, and I think it's like you, instead of responding to stimuli, you like take a moment to think about it and then you respond. So when I do that, that just like the words that I say after are very positive, and it becomes an effective conversation rather than just ending in a fight. So that could be one example. Another example that I have is like when for like when I don't finish my homework, or like everyone knows that feeling of, you know, you're walking into class or work and you're like, oh my goodness, I had a big project that was due today and you didn't even start on it. So everyone knows that feeling. And instead of just like freaking out, I've tried to take a second, and I think that's the biggest thing that I do is I just like take a second, compose myself, think about all the different ways that this could play out, and stuff like that. So I think it's helped me internally, and I know that this is only like a private victory habit, but it's also helped me externally with my other relationships, because I think people are seeing that. Maybe it's just that I'm like leading by example, because people are seeing that I can take a bad situation and make it okay. And they want to do that too, because it's a good feeling to have. It's a good feeling to not let the outside world control all of your emotions and feelings and behaviors and things like that. So I think that is it for me. And yeah, thank you.